Welcome to developing the prone position. First, we'll talk about some of the equipment that we use in the prone position. So we use a shooting jacket. And what we want to do is tighten up the straps on the back of the shooting jacket to make sure that the athlete has a lot of support and it's tight in the shoulders to be able to hold up the rifle. And then we're going to use a sling. So the sling goes on the opposite arm of the dominant eye of the shooter. We put that on the jacket, and we use a little hook that holds the sling up so it doesn't slip down on the arm. And then next, the shooter's going to put their shooting jacket on. And what they do with the shooting jacket is make sure that it's nice and tight across the back of their shoulders, and they hold they do up the buttons in the front. Now they're not going to do up all of the buttons, just the top two. So that way, when they actually are laying down, the diaphragm isn't constricted when they're breathing. So getting into position now, they shoot. The first thing before we even touch the rifle is we're going to actually fit the butt plate to the shooter. So we adjust the butt plate so that way when the shooter has their arm in a 90-degree angle, the finger actually reaches the trigger. So we know that when they get into position, they'll be able to reach the trigger without straining any muscles. So now we'll have the athlete put on their shooting glove, and then they're going to get down into a position. We always develop from the ground up because that's the most stable part. So the shooter's going to lay on that one panel of the jacket and make sure that it's tight to provide support and make sure that the jacket doesn't slip up. The other thing that we're going to do is make sure that the athlete has a tripod developed. So the two elbows act as a tripod with the body in order to support the rifle. And now they're going to pick up the rifle without attaching the sling or anything. They're just going to pick it up naturally. At this point, we want to see where their hand fits, and then we're going to push the hand stop back to just in front of their hand. They're going to get back into position just to make sure that it's all good. And now we're going to hook up the sling. So the sling, we want it to be nice and tight, and the sling wraps around the shooter's wrist to provide support. So the sling wraps around the wrist so that way the shooter doesn't have to use any muscles in order to actually get into position. Now what we do is we get them to get into position with the sling attached, and we're going to adjust the sights. So we want the sights to be about 3 to 5 centimeters from the eye, and that's what we call eye relief. And the eye relief allows them to see the perfect sight picture. The other thing about that is we want to adjust the cheek piece so that way the shooter is putting their cheek on the same spot every single time and are able to center their eye behind the rear sight perfectly every single time. So now you can see that the shooter is testing that, and they can, every time they take their cheek and put it on, they'll be able to do that. So now we've essentially set up the position the way we want it to, and we're going to set up the athlete's legs so that the left leg is in a straight line with the back and the vertebrae, and the right leg is on an angle, and this allows the diaphragm to sit up off of the ground so it's easier to breathe. The right shoulder is relaxed, or all the shoulders are relaxed, and the elbow just rests naturally every time. And you'll see that the trigger finger rests naturally and straight up against the trigger.